Hello and welcome back to the channel, everybody. Thanks for joining me this week. I hope, as always, this video finds you well, happy, and more importantly, of course, still enjoying the hobby, as I always say every week. Thank you so much for joining me again this week. Really appreciate it. So, what have I got in store for you today, or this week? This week it's a little bit of bottom side and mostly top side. So as you can see, we are attaching the main gear base that we completed in last week's episodes to the bottom side of the kit. Just using, as always, the Tamiya extra thin cement. Going forwards, we will be doing a bit of cockpit work, getting that attached, and also playing around with the forwards cockpit glass, the forward cabin glass, getting that polished up and looking good, and getting the halves together. So if that sort of thing tickles your fancy, which I hope it does, stay with us and enjoy the ride. So here I am just fixing the right hand side as we look at it, main wheel bay, and obviously I do the left side, but I won't drag that out too long. That's going to be fast forward, as you can be seeing. It's just a very simple case of a bit of Tamiya cement, run it around the edges and let the capillary action and the welding action take place, basically. So we are a nice close up again of the main wheelbase. A little bit of scuffing going on that wheelbase there. I need to address that. I'll probably just weather that out. Then it's onto the forward wheelbase. Nice details in there that we saw last week, all painted, looking good. So it's just a case of clamping that or clipping it into place, and again gluing in situ. Again, fast forwarded for your viewing pleasure. Just whilst that's going on, I'd like to say thank you ever so much for subscribing to the channel and joining me week in, week out on my little journey. Here we go, clamped in place, because there is an ever so such a slight arc in the wheelbase where it attaches to the fuselage, so I thought best to clamp it in place. So moving on, we are now going to attach the cockpit tubs into place. Now, Great Wall Hobby, being amazing as they are, have popped little attachment holes there, and there are the protruding clips that will fit into those holes, so there's no fit issue at all with this. And again, as always, pop a bit of glue in the holes and then pop the part in place. Really simple stuff, which is how it should be. This should be enjoyable, not a wrestling match every time we try and do something, as you do get with some of the older kits, I'm afraid to say. So this is almost like the ugly side of the kit. Everything looks a bit sort of jagged and janky and worn and not great, but of course that's absolutely fine, because as long as it looks good on the outside, who cares, right? So there we go, this is the ugly side of the cockpit tub. Then there's the nice side, looking lovely. Really happy with this. Things just starting to come together now. The kit is starting to progress forwards and starting to take shape. There we go, both cockpit tubs in place. Little look at that, just to see how realistic it looks and make sure everything's all nice and looking how I want it to look. And yep, pretty happy with that. In fact, very happy with that. Everything nicely slotted into place, just perfect. Well done, Great Wall Hobby. Kudos to that one. So as you can see there, a little bit of nose weight. I put some screws in the end there. It does seem to be a fairly nose heavy kit, but I didn't want to risk it, because there is nothing worse than having a tail sitter. We've all been there and we all don't want to do it again. So I super glued some screws in place. So there's plenty of things out there that you can use, such as, I think it's liquid weight or something like that, which is lots of little metal balls that you can pop into something. But I just use screws. Like, why overthink it? So as you can see there, I was gluing all the clip or the attachment parts, which are very good on this kit. I took it away because I accidentally forgot that, yeah, you need to glue the wings as well. So I pulled the kit away and glued the clip attachments, or the fixers or fasteners, into place. Really here, think looking back I should have, with the wings, just got my 2 clamps out, my smaller clamps, and just clamped them together rather than fiddling around and faffing about with it. But there we go, no harm done. I also made sure that the nose was properly lined up. You've got a sort of small glimpse of that, because the 2 halves, they need to go together correctly, so then it looks good when the nose is put well, less sanding when you put the nose on it, it's nice and circular. So moving very swiftly on, once everything had dried glue wise, it was a case of sanding any seam lines. So what I've done here is I put a bit of Tamiya masking tape down, doubled it up. This is because when I'm sanding, I don't want to lose the detail that's running alongside where I've got to sand. So that does a good job of protecting it. It's not completely fail-safe, but it does a good enough job. So then it was using various grits of sanding sticks, and as you may have noticed, each time I use a different sanding stick, I go in a different direction to what I was sanding before. This, there we go, as a prime example, now in the opposite direction. I personally find this is a great way of getting rid of all the score marks, the scuff marks that the sanding, the more coarser sanding sticks create. So using this smoother, well, eventually getting down to super smooth and fine, it just keeps the deeper grooves that can sometimes be caused by overzealous sanding. It just gets rid of them. And here we are with the last bit down to the super fine, super smooth, sort of probably 10,000 grit sanding stick, and that just basically, as you can see there, gets the plastic back to its pretty much original state, nice and smooth. And then once I'm happy that that's smooth and there's no seam line visible or different level, it's just a case of simply moving the masking tape, and as you can see, the detail has not been damaged. So here you can see that I lost a bit of detail in one of the panel sides, not practicing what I preached, didn't use a bit of masking tape because it was just a bit too close. So I lost a bit of detail. So what I'm using here is it's a dental pick, believe it or not. It's seen better days, but it does the rescribing job beautifully. Now I'm only simulating this here, hence why it's not directly on the line, because I'd already done a good enough job. But you use these. You can get by templates and things like that. I didn't need to with this. It wasn't too badly lost, the detail, so I was able to use the existing line and just basically gently apply more pressure with each pass. Just rescribe the panel line there. And here I am just actually making the, well, I'm struggling to get my words out today, get the panel bolts rescribed so that they can, so you can see them. Looks a little bit harsh in this video, but it's not as harsh to the naked eye, which left me very happy with how it turned out. Struggling with words today, guys. Do apologise. Not like me to not have a ramble. Okay, this is not actually a scribing ruler per se. This is just something that I found in my stash. It's very flexible and it's great for doing curved panel lines. So as you can see there, going in the same direction, just gently applying more pressure. Nothing too harsh because I don't want to go too deep. And just rescribing panel line detail that wasn't completely lost, but slightly lost with a little bit of sanding. So there you go. It is a little bit deeper than the other panel lines, but not drastically so that it bothered me. Just to keep some of the details. I know it's a little bit, maybe some would say OTT because you're not going to see it, but I wanted it to look right, so it's my kit, so I did it. So we've got the wingtips attached, and these are photo etch parts that come with the kit. I guess these are strengthening points on the actual aircraft. I'm not sure. If you know, drop a comment. But these need to be glued in place next to the wingtips. So this is using CA glue or super glue, using the end of my airbrush needle as a trick, as we already know from previous videos. Just applying a minimal amount of super glue, and then we'll pop this in place. Again, I've not shown you all the parts going into place because there's no point. One's enough, you get the idea. So again, with my fine tweezers, checking the reference or the kit instructions in this case, just to make sure that I'm popping it in the correct place. Do need to be kind of accurate, one hit, sort of get it straight on point straight away with this, otherwise the glue will show through. But there we go, pretty happy with that. It's popped in place. In fact, very happy that was spot on. And that's on the underside of the wing. You also get them off for the top side of the wing as well. Next up was the air brake. It's quite a vast sort of part of this kit and on the real aircraft as well. So it comes in 2 parts. It's just a case of popping these 2 together. Sadly, this detail's all going to be lost. It's very detailed as well, I must say, but this is going to be lost because I'm not having it in a deployed position. But what I was very happy again with this kit is the fit was just superb, as you'll see in a minute. Once I get my fingers in order, it clicks together and you can barely see it. It was just a case of letting popping a bit of extra thin around it just to keep it in position. Really was such a snug fit. So not used to this easy fitting lark. It was absolutely super. Okay, next up, cockpit glass, or the forward windshield, should we call it? Now, as is tradition, it seems, particularly with Hasegawa, Tamiya, and excuse me, coughing again this week, and with the Great Wall Hobby, you get a what do you call it? A seam line on the plastic. We call it, it's not glass, but we call it glass for ease of reference. So that needs to be sanded away and then polished out. So I sanded this away. It took a good half an hour using really fine sanding stick, which I point out now, just to get rid of this seam line. And then it was a case of using the Maguire's. Excuse me, I'm going to have to cough, guys. I do appreciate. I do apologise. Excuse me, moi. Okay, using the sanding stick in opposite directions, but just where the seam line was. So lots and lots of sanding with that, and then just to get rid of the seam line totally, I used the Maguire's. This stuff's for actually headlight restorer, but it's great on plastic. So I just used the Maguire's Plastex, as you can see there, with a microfiber cloth, and rubbed that in and gave that sort of 10 minutes good buffing with the cloth, and it's come up. You can't see the seam line, and it's come up, as you can see there, absolutely perfectly. So I was really pleased with that. There are many different ways of getting rid of seam lines in the glass. They can be found on YouTube. I might even do a video myself of showing you how to do it. Some people use like a Dremel or something like that with a soft tip on it just to buff it away. There are plenty of ways to do it. If you get that seam line, don't panic. You will get rid of it. Just be gentle with it. Don't, for goodness sake, use like harsh sanding sticks. And as I pointed out there, I'm going to start masking the forward glass here. I need to get my commentary a bit of a scoot on here to keep up with my video. I've just showed the toothpick because I see so many people going near these delicate plastic bits with tweezers. I mean, I even do it in this video, but I know I'm not going to touch it. But they get so close, it gives me the heebie-jeebies, because you even slightly nick that glass, you've got to start again. So I use a toothpick mostly just to get the masking tape in position. But right on cue, as I say that I use a toothpick, here I am going very close with the tweezers, but this is just to position the masking tape, not actually put it in, not actually move it, so that the tweezers aren't going near that plastic. I was so careful with that because I have personally nicked the clear plastic in the past, and it just sets you back to square one. You can also use Maskol here if you want to. I don't see the point. I quite enjoy doing this. Proper gets you concentrating, looking at what you're doing. You can zone out doing it. There you go, with a toothpick, just popping it in position and making sure that it's flat. We do not want any burring or any leaks into the plastic here. Okay, you probably can remove it by sanding it away, but you don't need that stress in your life. Okay, all masked up. Very happy with that. Also see the wonderful detail, and what is good about this plastic or the glass bit is where you're gluing, it's nowhere near where the clear part is going to be, so there'll be no chance of fogging or misting up when you use the glue or glue it in place. Okay, so next up it was building the HUD on the forward part of the cockpit. Now this is a photo, you get the choice of either using a photo etch part or a plastic part. Now me being me, I took the harder option. Why wouldn't you? I don't know. But anyhow, yeah, so it's a case of bending this into shape, which I got 90% in this video. I went away and checked up my references, and I did do a couple of adjustments off camera. But here are the actual bits of clear plastic that are to represent the glass for the HUD, and my hand going across there is basically it goes in at an odd angle, a 45-degree angle into the HUD. You can actually see, you might be able to see the score lines there of where it's actually got to slot into. So this is a fairly tricky little part to get right, to be honest, which I didn't struggle with, but it was fiddly as heck, and I just didn't want to video me struggling. So there you go, you can see it's 90% now. It should have been a little bit squarer, and actually the top bit there needs to be sort of oval, not oval, but rounded. I did this later on, even after this was video, because I looked and thought, oh, that ain't the right size, or the right shape, so I sorted that out, and luckily the plastic for depicting the HUD, the actual glass, didn't pop out, so I lucked out a bit there. So this is just a case of, as always, using PVA glue so it dries clear. I glued up the edge of the plastic there and just slotted it into position. Fiddly as heck, but well worth it once it's done, because the actual plastic part was a little bit clunky and not to my liking. So I was really pleased to get this. There you go, as you can see, it needs to go in at an angle. I've only videoed a little bit of this. It didn't get left like this, but just to give you an idea of how fiddly it was. And there it all is in position. It doesn't look massively glamorous at the real close macro there, but to the normal eye it looks great. And now it's just a case of super gluing it in position, or twanging it off into the seat, as you'll see in a minute. And you'll be able to see there, actually, something I noticed on this video actually, is I've actually moved the clear bit of plastic there, but as luck would have it, it pings back into position, actually really sits well. Bit of luck there, especially after the foul up. I mean, look at me struggling away here. This was fiddly. Take your time, don't get cranky with it. Look, I mean, seriously, just goes to show that it happens to us all. Take your time, breathe. It will go in position. It's just a little bit fiddly. If you've got wobbly hands like me, it is a bit of a pain in the arse, but there we go, it is in position. I did move it again later on because it is just a little bit out of position. I sort of bent it a little bit just to look a little bit better and in better situ, but I didn't video it. I do apologise, guys, I can't show you everything. I didn't feel that necessary anyhow, but I got into position anyhow. So there you go, that's the HUD. The easier way is to use the plastic part, but again, just looked a bit clunky to me. So what I'm showing here is I've actually masked the inside of the cockpit glass. Now, why have I done that? Well, this is to, as you'll see, paint the inside of the metal frame. I do see quite a lot of kits where this is sort of missing, and it just bugs me a little bit. I mean, okay, it takes 10 minutes to mask, bit of a pain in the bum, but just that little bit of, you know, attention to detail, I think will just get, you know, takes you a long way. So it's the inside of the cockpit blue. It's just a case of, there you go, easy as that. Just making the insides, makes it look metal in my opinion, and not made of plastic. Looks more realistic, and then it's just a case of removing this. Again, being blooming careful with the tweezers because I don't want to nick it. I don't know why I didn't listen to my own words and use a toothpick, but I didn't nick it, so yeah, all's well that ends well. Other people, there we go, toothpick was to the rescue there. Other people actually don't do this, and where it's outside masked, they spray the blue first and then put whatever the outside colour is on top of it, so it looks like that the bottom's blue. But again, it's not quite right to my eye because it's not on the actual side it should be. It's almost showing through, if that makes sense. It's not a bit of me. Listen, it's your kit, you're happy. Who am I to disagree? But this is for me, this is how I like it. So I've gone the extra bit there just to get that looking right. And I hope you agree. If you don't, let me know. If you do, let me know. It'd be nice to hear from you. So there we go. Inside of the cockpit frame is painted. So this is ready to actually get stuck in position now. And stick it in position we shall. Got a bit of weathering on the inside of the cockpit there. Again, just to add a little bit of realism. Don't need to be too neat with it, but obviously you don't get any runs down sides. And then it's just a lovely simple click in, and again it's just such a good fit. I almost don't want to build another kit after this because I know the others probably aren't going to live up to scratch. I mean, I know they will, but this is so good, this kit. And it was also just a case of applying a bit of downward pressure just to get the edge of the cockpit frame to be in line with the fuselage. There we go. One cockpit in place. I hope you like it. Again, while we're looking at this, if you got this far in the video, I cannot thank you enough. You guys mean the world to me. I've been blown away by your support. I mean, genuinely blown away. You hear a lot about it, people spouting that off on Instagram and other things like that, and YouTube. I am genuinely blown away. I didn't think anyone would be listening to my ramblings. So the fact that you guys have got this far in this video and have supported me through all of this, I just can't thank you enough. If I could meet you all, I'll give you a hug. You know, it means the world. Anyway, less of those ramblings. Okay, so I basically used Tamiya masking tape to put the nose cone in position, because I'm going to glue this cone in stages. So I'm going to make sure that the top is perfectly lined up, and by perfectly I mean I get really finicky about this. So I get it perfectly lined up, drop a bit of glue in the top there, let that dry, and then take the tape off and work my way around the nose until the whole bit's done. This is not a part to be rushed, because it will save you ages, because you really don't want to be then having to hack away sanding to get this smooth, because it will take forever and it probably just won't look right. You lose a lot of detail, etc. So here I am, I've got that in situ, and then it's a case of removing the masking tape and then just working my way around the nose cone, get it right, and then I'll be happy. So with a minute of the video left to go, just like to say thanks again for tuning in this week. Next week, it's going to be paint, something to look forward to. Digital camo coming soon, guys. And believe me, I've done it and I've got to edit the video. It looks freaking awesome. Okay, really pleased. It's something I really hope you guys are as excited as I am to see, as next week's video is all about painting this bad boy. And believe me, yeah, it looks good. Digital camo and this rocks. Okay, so as you saw there, it was a case of just lining it up. Now, as you can see, there's a little bit of a dent there. Now, I used a bit of sprue goo to fill that and to get it lined up perfectly, because I just wanted it right. Didn't take long, but it was well worth the effort. Okay, I haven't got long with you now, left now. Thank you so much for joining me this week. If you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button and hit the bell as well, because then you'll get notifications of when I upload a new video. Thanks for joining me. A couple of last views of the cockpit there. Speak soon. Have a great week. Happy modelling, and bye.